Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never last. Wake me up when September ends. Like my father's come to pass. 7 years has gone so fast. Wake me up when September ends.
Wake up, everybody. It's time for the Crack House Podcast. My name is Mike O'Sullivan. Joining me as always in all things Crack House, my man Chris Muscalino. What's up, dude?
Hey, Mike. What's good, man? Happy holiday, right? Labor Day.
Yep. Hopefully everyone's enjoying the beautiful Labor Day weekend. Weather's gorgeous. We just went through the hurricane.
Yeah, man.
Ida came through and kicked some ass in Queens, man. Holy shit.
Crazy. You know what? It's good that we start off with that. Labor Day has got to be Ed Bundy from Married with Children's favorite holiday. I think he renamed it Leech's Day, if you remember back in the day.
Yeah.
But going to the hurricane, man. Yeah. So my parents are still in Astoria. Yours are out there too. And apparently they're all the basements on 23rd Street in Astoria got flooded out. You know, the last time we saw something like that, we talked about it weeks ago about Gloria, right? And
Yeah.
that was what, 30, almost 35, almost 40 years ago at this point, man, right?
Yeah, that was a crazy time, man. Everything got flooded out. Both my brothers still live in Astoria. They got flooded out.
Yeah.
Even like other parts of Queens, I saw pictures of Middle Village. They got nailed. Parts by me where I live. I mean, I was lucky enough where I'm kind of on the upslope, so I didn't get it. I thank God I didn't get any water in my basement. I really lucked out. But people that live down the hill, the next day I was out, people had their entire basements, like everything they owned was out on the street already. They were just cleaning everything out. Because it was, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be like, it's almost going to be like a mini Sandy with everyone making, there's going to be probably like a couple $100 million in insurance claims with people.
Yeah.
That's what I could see anyway from it. I mean, it really was bad. It really was bad in the city anyway. Well, Queens,
I saw pictures of it. I spoke to my father like the day after. Luckily, we got a lot of rain out here, but we didn't get flooded. The week before, in preparation for the other one, I got a generator, which I've been saying for years. I'm one of those guys that I wait till like the last minute. And when it seems really bad, I say to myself, you know what? I'm going to go out and buy a generator. Every year I did it. The last time was with Sandy. I missed the boat. Last year we lost power. It happens once every couple of years, but I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to go another week or so without power if we get hit. And I may have told you this, Mike. I sat in insurance classes years ago. And, besides car insurance, they deal with a whole bunch of, claims, house insurance and stuff. And our teacher at the time, they were talking about the different categories of hurricanes. And luckily, here on Long Island, here in the city, we've never seen anything, remotely close to a Category 5. Most of the things, even Sandy was downgraded to a tropical storm when it hit, even though, it was long lasting.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, man. If we ever got a Category 5 here on the island in the city, Brooklyn and Lower Manhattan would be underwater. The Forks out near Aberquag and Riverhead, you'd be submerged. It would look like something out of Thunder the Barbarian. That's how ill-prepared New York State is in terms of a hurricane. As far as damage and structures, you'd see loss of life. You think New Orleans wasn't prepared? We're completely unprepared. So, the chances of us getting anything above a Category 2 or Category 3 is probably minimal, just because as the hurricane moves up, it gets colder, and that's kind of the hot air and the hot water kind of fuels it. So we should luck out. But if we ever get to that level, we get the hell off the island, man. I mean,
Well,
really.
Well, I mean, I just saw the effects. I mean, you obviously saw the effects of Sandy too.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove around like those hard hit parts of like Staten Island and Brooklyn. And it was insane, man. And I don't even know what category that was. What was that, a category 2, Ben?
Which one, Sandy?
Yeah.
Sandy got to a 1, believe it or not. It had the winds, I think at one point was bordering on a category 2. And really the way a hurricane goes, I'm not a meteorologist, but I did take that class and I remember what the person said. And my understanding is it's the speed of the wind that details the strength of the hurricane and how it's categorized. So once you go above 75 miles an hour in winds, it gets categorized, I believe, as a tier 1, category 1 storm. Once it goes over 150 miles, I think it's a category 2 and so forth. So when Sandy hit, it was like a tropical storm borderline when it hit Long Island.
Yeah.
Jersey, you know? And the problem with that is it lingered, kind of like this Ida thing. Just it lasted for a day or 2 and it just didn't move. So it caused widespread destruction down in Louisiana. And I guess when it ventured up here, we kind of got the remnants of it. And that's why you got that heavy rain in such heavy concentration, because it just didn't move.
Yeah, because like when I remember just driving around, like I said, parts of like Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. And you just saw the devastation of, like, I saw giant houses, that part of Brooklyn in Seagirt, down by like where the Cyclones play. And all the houses where the back of the house was like facing the water, they were just ripped off. Yeah. It looked like a dollhouse. Like when you open a dollhouse in half, that's what the back of these houses all look like. You know, you could see right in. Like I said, there were boats. Staten Island, there were just boats in the middle of the streets. Anyone that lived close to the water. So yeah, I mean, and as far as like preparation goes, you can't prepare for it because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like I said, I met one guy when I was out there with Sandy back in like, what was that, 2013 or whatever. 2012. And the guy said, you know, he lived right on the water, and he goes, I was doing well the whole time. He goes, I got he goes, I maybe had 6 to 8 inches of water in my basement, and that was it. And I was like, you know what? I can live with that.
Right.
Then out of nowhere, a boat hit my house. And he goes,
it's not laughing matter. It's messed up, actually.
Yeah, the dude had a boat come in off the water, hit his house, knocked the house off the foundation, and then he goes, I had water up 3 feet onto the first floor of my house. My whole basement was submerged, and then 3 feet of water on my first floor.
Wow.
So like you said, you can do all the preparation. It's like anything, prepare, but you don't know what's going to happen.
No, you don't. You don't. But I can tell you this much, man. I mean, if we got to the point where I thought that we were going to get, or if there was newscasts saying, hey, look, you know, you're going to get anything above a category 2, I think you'd really have to consider getting somewhere else, you know, and especially where we are, we're just still prepared for it. But I remember a story Big Pat told us, I guess, when Sandy hit. I think his dad was, I guess, in Long Beach, right, near the Rockaways and stuff. And he said something, I again, maybe we can confirm this off air with him, but I think he said something to the effect that the old man, I guess his house got flooded. Like he had to go upstairs, and when he came downstairs, like the whole first floor was flooded out.
Yeah, I know, like the whole Long Beach area. I knew some guys that lived out there, and they said every house got destroyed.
Right.
I mean, you're right on the Long Beach, Rockaway. Everyone was right on the water. One guy I know that lived in Long Beach, he said the first floor of his house looked like the beach. It was just all sand on the first floor of his house. So
I think there were bars that we used to go to that got wiped out too. I mean, there was a whole bunch of spots that we used to go to, I guess, right after we got out of high school, and right as I got into college. I had some buddies down there, you know, guys from Breezy Point and stuff. We used to party with them out there. And, you know, we could spend a whole episode talking about the Rockaways. It's like a different world once you go over that bridge off Cross Street.
It's not Queens. I always say that. It's not, you know, the Rockaways is part of Queens. It's like its own little world, man.
Dude, we used to go there like in the early 90s, like late 80s. And I remember going there. And some of the guys, you know, we're mixed, you know, Italians, Irish for the most part. But I can tell you this much. When I went with a couple of the Irish guys that we went to, and these guys are like really Irish, like red hair, freckles and stuff. Some of them have brogues and stuff. We'd go to like Breezy and stuff. These guys knew like right away, like I didn't belong. Like they automatically assumed like I was like from Howard Beach and stuff. You know, like, you know, I'm Italian and my skin is too dark, that kind of deal. I mean, it's like a different world, man. It's like slipping into like 1950s, like Happy Days type shit. You know, it's pretty wild.
You were like the Sticks Downey of the group, man.
It's like Fonzie.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, like Breezy Point's its own little Breezy Point's its own little world in the own little world of Rockaway.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's one of those places. It's like this secluded little place. There's nothing there. I was just out there. My daughter had a softball game, and I was out there probably like 2 months ago. And I mean, there's nothing there. It's just the houses. Everyone knows everybody. Even someone like me walking in, like, who are you?
They have their own private security out there, and it's much different than like the 118s, like the 130s and stuff. Like there's a lot of bars and the boardwalk there. Breezy's like you said, it's like a completely different place. It's very upper class, a lot of retired civil servants, firemen, cops. Then if you go to the other side of the Rockaways, like down, like I guess below 100s, on Rockaway, dude, there was one point, like I remember go there in the early 90s, and it's like one of the places in the country where I've been where I was fearful for my life. And I was with a lot of dudes there. I mean, we'd go on the boardwalk, and this is broad daylight, roving packs of people, kids, dogs. It was just really, there was an air of lawlessness. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Rockaways have always been like that. One part of Breezy, like that part of Breezy too, everything's generational. Like your parents are basically probably leaving you their house, and they're going to retire to Florida. Everyone knows everyone. You got to get like voted in to live in Breezy Point. You don't just buy a house there. Like I said, it's private. It's its own private little community. You got to get voted in to live there. And then the other side of Rockaway, it's welcome to the jungle. Sometimes you're gonna, you better watch where you're going, man. And I mean, that's where the majority of the crime is in Rockaway too. Is always over on the other side of the island. There's a lot of projects over there. There's a lot of shootings, a lot of drugs, a lot of gang activity. It's just the way it is, man.
It's a place on 118 we used to always go to, Tim Hickey's back in the day. I don't even know if it's there, but that was a perfect example of the Rockaways, because like literally you'd be there and it was like this nice Irish bar, and then down the block was like crack houses. So like if you walk down the block, you'd see people wandering out of their minds. And you got college kids and locals at this local Irish bar having a great time right up the street from it. It was like one of those long city blocks, that you see in Manhattan. So it was like, in the span of like a half a mile, not even a couple 100 feet, was just like a completely different world too. But the effect of the hurricanes, I remember what Pat said to me. His dad was in Long Beach. I went to those bars, like I said, in the Rockaways in Oceanside, or near Oceanside, which is pretty close. Really devastating effect. I mean, even to this day, I don't think some of those places ever, recovered from some of that stuff that hit Sandy. But whatever, man.
All right. Hopefully everyone made it. I mean, I know there was like a bunch of deaths involved, but hopefully.
It was like a dozen deaths, man.
Yeah, just up and down the East Coast, I think altogether it was like a total. Like Jersey got slammed.
Yeah.
Something like 20-something people. Like people getting. I hate hearing those stories where it's like people just get like swept away in their cars. Like there was a cop in Connecticut that died like that. One of the Connecticut state troopers. I think there was like another cop in Jersey just swept away in the car trying to, like doing his job or whatever.
Talking about tragedies, I'm going to take us for a left turn for a second. I don't know if you knew this story. This is a law enforcement story down in South Carolina. So over the summer, I guess this lawyer, his wife and son.
Oh, yeah.
I saw something today. This guy got shot in the head today. He was traveling on a road down in Charleston, South Carolina. He got banged up today. They shot him in the head. I don't know if he's going to live or not, but dude, it's a crazy story. I don't know if you know the specifics.
The wife and the son got murdered like behind the barn on the house, right, or something.
Dude, somebody came up to their house and just blew the kid and blew the wife away. They're like our age, maybe the wife is like our age. He's like our age, maybe 52, 53, slightly older than us. And the guy, whoever did it, blew away the kid, who was 22 or 23 at the time. The wife was in her early 50s, like 51, 52, blew her away. He's some sort of lawyer. I guess he comes from a powerful family, the guy.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is like the family is supposedly like, they're like the Ewings, like from Dallas. Like they run whatever part of, South Carolina it is, or North Carolina?
South Carolina, yeah.
They have supposedly been entrenched in that area for years, and they run everything.
Dude, it's a wild story.
Yeah, like and yeah, and it seems like no one's talking about it either.
Right.
In the sense of like that husband, you're just saying the husband got shot, but he doesn't. When the wife and the kid got shot, he
wasn't there.
Claimed to have no idea, and now he got shot. So obviously something's up, man. Something is that criminality is afoot, dude. Like he probably screwed somebody over. I mean, I would say it's something like that.
I gotta imagine, dude. I mean, this guy's 52 years old. He got shot in the head driving down to. Yeah. I mean, I'm not laughing at it. You know, I'm just saying it's a crazy story. The Murdaugh family. That's what the name is. Crazy. I just saw that today. I figured I'd bring it up. I mean, just wild. It's like you said. I think there's probably a lot more to this than what's coming out. But
that's a whole
$100,000 reward. You know, to see what's up. You know,
because I think the wife and the kid got it. I think like a month or two ago. I remember reading that in the paper because it was like they said it was like one of these out of the blue stories. Like this is one of the most predominant families in South Carolina,
right?
And the wife and the son got murdered. And dude, I didn't even know this guy got shot today. So
yeah, it just happened this afternoon. That's why I figured I'd bring it up. I mean, it's a law enforcement type story, you know, true crime. I mean, I guess right up your other guy's alley, who does the other podcast. But I figured I'd bring this up because this seems like at some point, like you said, there's got to be a little bit more to this than.
Oh yeah, there's, you know, I always like to say, very rarely is the innocent victim shot.
Right.
You know, people get shot for a reason. Unfortunately, people get shot for a reason. So
most of the time,
there's definitely a story behind this. I would say it's the husband. He screwed somebody over. And now it's revenge time. So, like I said, we'll keep following the story, and we'll keep everyone apprised of what's going on.
Apprised, right?
Apprised.
Keep it rolling, Big Mike. Lead
the
way.
We got let's talk about Afghanistan, man.
Ooh.
What a shit show that was.
Oh, that is for Sleepy. No good. I don't know, man. I mean, you know, from what I understand, you know, in all fairness to the president, Trump was planning this about a year and a half ago. I guess they're trying to kind of pin the blame on him. But here's the deal. You know, whether it was Trump or whether it was Biden, whoever, you know, this has been going on for a while, apparently, even going back to Obama. Whoever was in charge was going to kind of get a little bit of backlash. The problem I think that everybody has with it is the fact that their intelligence, Mike, you know, was lackluster to say the least. You know, you pull out of the thing, you know, you gotta know the circumstances. Whoever's in charge, whether it's the chief of staffs, you know, the intelligence agencies, they'd have to get a better grasp on things in terms of, hey, look, if we pull out within 3 days, the thing is just going to go to, you know what? I mean, I think that's the problem that everybody has with it. You spend 20 years there, you spend all this time, and in a matter of days, you lose people's lives. You got Americans still trapped over there, and you know, it just seems like you were ill prepared to deal with it. You know, so I think that's really what the feeding angle is, and that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think. Listen, like I think you hit the nail on the head. Whoever was in charge was going to eat this shit sandwich,
right?
And it just happened to be him. I don't think anyone. I didn't expect like within 72 hours, it's like the new regime just came in.
No.
They started playing, you know, I mean, they look like idiots too. Like they're playing with, you know, they're riding bumper cars and they're using workout exercise equipment, but they just came in and just cleaned the house. Like the Taliban, I forget the one leader's name, they're already saying is going to be the next president.
Right.
And, you know, anyone that opposed them is getting murdered right now. There was some Afghani comedian that used to joke about the Taliban constantly. They took him right out of his house. He got executed. I mean, we saw the guy hanging from the helicopter.
I don't even know if that's true or not. I mean, I read something that was like, I don't know, it was fact checked and that was actually inaccurate.
Oh, really?
Who knows, man? I mean, it just, you don't get a lot. You know, the problem with today, and we've beat this over the head. You don't know really what the hell to believe. You know, you get such different conflicting stuff from different viewpoints. So, you know, you turn CNN on and it's very favorable to the president and, oh, this is bullshit, or they forget to mention it, or they don't want to report on it. Then you go to Fox, and it's the other thing. It's completely from the different standpoint, almost to the point like it's bordering on right wing crazy conspiracy stuff. And you try to as a person that tries to toe the middle, you kind of try to decipher what's accurate and what's not.
Yeah,
So,
you want to make heads or tails of it. Like you said, yeah, CNN is going to say what a tragedy this is.
right.
They're not going to push blame on anybody. And then,
Well, they
like
would
you said,
if it was Trump.
yeah, yeah.
But because it's a Democratic president,
Oh
it's
no,
because it's favorable to him. Yeah, you're right. And then you get the other end of the coin, who kind of is on the right side of things, and they're going to try to destroy the guy.
yeah.
So again, you don't know where to go with it. But I can tell you this, my taking political science at Stony Brook all those years ago, I can tell you this: the polls that they do, a lot of them is skewed left, just like the media. But here's the deal: even the most leftist polls, I follow one website called 538, which is run by Nate Silver. Nate Silver was an old, he's a gay dude. He was a statistician back in the day. And what he did was he worked for MLB, and he did a lot of stuff for a series of books called Baseball Perspectives. He's a really smart guy. Make a long story short, he moved over into political analysis, and he started this website 538, which is kind of like a hybrid of pop culture, sports, political analysis, and they do a lot of polling and they do a lot of statistics. I guess in 2008, when Obama got elected, he was one of the guys that I think he correctly predicted every single district to the T as far as how they would vote. Now, he was wrong in the last two elections, and he was wrong by a wide margin. But basically what they do is they run a presidential poll, okay? And I'll show you this maybe on the camera here. So it's, I don't know if you could see it, but anyways, it goes on a daily basis, and it tracks the president. They do it for all the presidents. They have all the polling data back to like the 50s and Eisenhower and Truman. So this one, I guess when Biden got elected, he had an approval rating close to 60%, which is pretty high. It's also high considering that Trump, I think, never broke 40%. Okay, so Trump was like in reverse. So he started at 60%, I guess, back in January. And I guess so since this Afghanistan stuff broke, I guess he went from like the mid 50s, 53, 54, to in some polls as low as 43%. So he's dropped like dramatically, like in the span of like a month. Plus, coupled with everything else, the fact that you've got all these variants with COVID and stuff, you got widespread inflation going on right now at the gas pump. And, some of this stuff is not his fault. Some of this stuff I think is just, I guess a precursor of, the stuff that happened as a result of COVID. But it's happening under his watch. And ultimately, as the president, you kind of get blamed, no matter if you are responsible for it or not.
Absolutely. So, the buck stops with him. So, I mean,
right.
That's what's going to happen anyway. He's got to, he's in charge of Afghanistan, unfortunately. That's his mess. He's got the border crisis. That's his mess. Like you said, we got hyperinflation going on. These are all these things now. I hate getting all this political bullshit, but the left cried for 4 years about transparency, right. And now you have it on the flip side, and you got to look and see what's going on. Nothing's being done. You can cry all you pulled out. You knew this was going to happen. He was told by military advisors.
Well,
it's going to go.
And you know what? That's where I kind of cut him some slack, because ultimately he makes the decision on how to do it. But the guys who advised him, those are the guys who should be really hung out to dry. So the chiefs of staff, this guy Miley, who I hate, maybe we'll talk about him a little bit more in detail. This woke general who talks about critical race theory in the military, and he talks about white rage and white guilt. Hey, dude, maybe you should do a little bit less worrying about all that stuff and worrying about doing your job properly and doing, advanced intelligence, and advising the president. And it doesn't just stop with him. And I guess the head of the NSA, the intelligence agencies, these guys all work in conjunction. Ultimately, I guess they prepare reports and they provide this guy stuff to make an educated decision. And it was just lackluster, man. For this thing to collapse in 3 days, I don't care who's president. I mean, just it looks badly. And I'll tell you what, Mike, I got a lot of friends who served in the service. I'm sure you do too. You know, I know your dad was a Marine back in Vietnam and stuff, but here's the deal. You know, I got guys who I worked with, or I'm friendly with, that were in Afghanistan. You know, they're livid, man. You know, they're livid. They fought, you know, during the first, you know, the second Gulf War, and
Yeah.
it just seems like, you know, you got 20 years worth of, you know, investment just flushed down the toilet in the span of, you know, days. And, you know, look, you could put some of it on Trump, you could put some of it on Obama, because they all set things in motion. But ultimately, the guys that advise this president, this current president, they're the people that should be held out to dry, not the president itself, even though ultimately, you know, like you said, the buck stops here. But
Yeah,
whatever.
but okay, you could say that too. But if Trump was still the president, he'd be the only one getting blamed for this.
Oh, absolutely.
You
There would be
know,
none of, yeah, right. No, I get it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
so
Look, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And listen, I think unfortunately the
no,
benefit of the doubt never came into play with the other guy, with Trump. But it doesn't make it right. You know, just because they didn't give him the benefit of the doubt doesn't mean you shouldn't give a president, whoever it is, you know, that respect, which I think has gone out the window. You know, I really do. You know, whether it's Trump or
yeah,
Biden or Obama, you know, it's not good. It's not good.
yeah.
But
Like I mean, like I said, it all comes down to like whoever was in office, this was going to happen. So we're dealing with it. Hopefully they can come to a somewhat resolution. Hopefully they
I
can
think
figure
so
this
too, man.
out without, you know, having to send troops back there. So
Yeah,
we'll see
yeah,
what happens.
absolutely.
What else did I see? I saw Joe Rogan got COVID and beat it. I think he's back to normal.
You know, there's another guy. So Joe, I think I listen to his podcast. I know you do too, and I think he's kind of got lumped into the fact that you know, they've lumped him into the fact that he's an anti-vaxxer and you know, a conspiracy type guy. And he does lean right. And like we were just talking about the president, I don't think this guy gets the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the media. Whether it's Spotify that paid millions to put his podcast on, whether it's just the media in general, they view him unfavorably because I think he leans left, leans right. And the reality of it is, I think he said something to the effect of he didn't want to force people to get a vaccine in order to come see his show. And it's funny, Mike. I mean, I know you got vaccinated. I got my first shot the other day, and you know, I don't judge people one way or the other. I'm not here to tell anybody, look, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. And what I took from Rogan was the same. You know, I think he just said, you know, look, I've got my views on it. I don't think he got vaccinated. And like, I think 3 days after the comments were made, I think he came down with COVID. And then I guess he took some sort of therapy, you know, that again gets ridiculed in the media because I think originally Trump talked about it. But apparently 3 days later, he tested negative for COVID. So he had it for like 3 days and he's good.
Yeah, he
According to,
touched, what was that stuff? That ivermectin and some other stuff he
yeah,
took.
I
And
don't know much about it, you know, and you know, I think it's really taboo. I think if you put it on Twitter or Facebook or some of these social media things, I think they go wild on it. You know, you get the disclaimer, the little COVID vaccine disclaimer, which we may get on this episode, you know, with the amount of talking that we're doing on it now, you know, the little disclaimer, like there are authorities on it and you're not, or you can't have an
yeah,
opinion, you know, without them flagging it,
yeah,
you know, I mean, which is wrong, you know, but again, that's kind of the precedents they set last year, you know. You can't have an opinion unless it's the opinion they like.
yeah. It's like anything now. You see it on Instagram, you see it on Facebook, Twitter. You know, with the COVID-19 little boop thing pops up. Uh, like I said, Joe Rogan seems also like he's kind of a very healthy guy.
Dude,
So
yeah, absolutely.
you know, the guy's a boxer or jujitsu guy, takes care of himself. He's always kind of, you know, if you watch his Instagram, he's constantly working out. He's killing elk in the woods every other day. He's doing his thing. Yeah, he does all this shit. He's very holistic and in like his treatments. So he took some different stuff. What's the big deal? He got it. Like people really wanted, you know, there was definitely a section of the population you could tell that wanted to see this guy on a ventilator.
Right.
Like
And that's
look,
fucked up.
look, see, he got it. He didn't get
And
back.
excuse my language, Mike, but that's effed up. Whether you're on the left or the right, if you're rooting for someone to get it, or if you're rooting someone not to get it, you know, I mean, it's messed up, man. You're dealing with people's lives and their health. We both had it. I don't take the thing lightly. I don't judge anybody whether they wear a mask, they don't wear a mask, whether they got the vaccine or not. What's up, puppy dog? Mike's
Yeah.
puppy's on screen. What's up, pal?
Say hello.
Is he new, this dog, or no?
No, I had him for a couple of years. He's just running around. But yeah, there was what was it? There was a news guy. He was kind of like a right-leaning Rush Limbaugh dude in Florida. He got it, and
He got it 70 years old, right? He passed away, right?
He got it and died.
And people were like cheering about it, like they were like all happy that the guy got it. Oh, see, you know, he was an anti-vaxxer and he got it. Look what happened to him. We were talking about a week or two ago. Remember, Mike? You know, you were looking at the guy in the New York Post, 43 years old, on a ventilator. Oh, he wanted to get the vaccine and he talked badly about it and he waited too long. And now, you know, and I was one of those guys. You know, I got it back in December and I had the antibodies, so it's not that I didn't want to get it, but I just didn't want to get it right away. I got the Pfizer because it was FDA approved. You know, I've known guys that look. I know a guy who works in a hospital, right? A good friend of my buddies, and he's high up. He got COVID. He got the vaccine, and he got COVID again. I mean, so who knows? You got guys in the Yankees that same deal. Now, I'm not here to bash the vaccine. I got it. I don't want to get sick again. I don't want to end up a ventilator. I don't want to end up a hospital. But I can tell you this much: I'm not rooting for people to get it. I'm not pointing at people. You know, I think something's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, if you're in a car by yourself and you're wearing a mask, it does look a little ridiculous. You know, that's the extent of stuff, you know, that I'll go.
But that's a weird move. That's a weird look. I don't get that.
I'm not one to judge. I mean, who knows? I don't know what the deal is with people. I mean, I can tell you, COVID's not a joke. I mean, let's put it that way. I'll leave it at that. But, you know, looking at Rogan, I think there was, like you said, there was a segment of this population and a segment of the media that rooted for this guy, and I think we're actually happy that this guy got COVID, and that's effed up.
Oh yeah, everyone, you know, he's probably, besides, you know, you gotta say it, besides Trump, he was probably the biggest anti-vax guy out there, the biggest anti, you know, if you take care of yourself, this won't happen. Obviously, if you interact with,
and in all fairness, Mike, Trump wasn't an anti-vax guy. His whole family got vaccinated, including him. You know, he's not anti-vax at all. And I don't think Rogan is either. I think the comment that the guy made was, hey, look, you know what? I have got some skepticism about it. And I don't want to force people who want to come see my show to get it in order to see me. He goes, I don't think that's right. That was his comments. And I think people took it. And again, you mentioned it, you know, people assume that Trump's an anti-vaxxer. He's not. He got it. He's spoken positively about it. His whole family got it. You know, and we, you know, listen, he got COVID, and from what I understand, I think he had COVID a lot more serious than people were led to believe.
Oh yeah, he was an older, you know, he's 70-something years old. It looks like he really doesn't take care of himself that much. He's a big guy,
right?
You know, it's, you know, the older you are, I'm sure the more it's going to kick your ass. So, I mean, you know, I mean, when you talk about like the vaccine and having to have proof of the vaccine, it kind of opens up like this whole Pandora's box too, of like, and you see a lot of it online. Okay, you know, I go into a restaurant. Let me see your proof of vaccine. Well, who's serving me my food? Bill. Well, let me see Bill's certification that he doesn't have hepatitis.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's a good point.
And that's where it's gonna. I think that's where you're gonna see a real snowball effect. People are gonna be like, I agree. Everyone's gonna have to just carry around all their medical records in their phone from now on.
I got my little card. My mom's got it. My father's got the vaccine. My mom walks wherever she has. She's got the vaccine thing in her purse. I've got my thing, you know, in my wallet. I took a picture, like you said, which was a great idea. I happen to live in Suffolk County right now, so I'm not really going to spots that are kind of doing that. It's kind of laissez-faire type stuff out here. But I do anticipate at some point going back to Yankee Stadium. I anticipate myself, you know, going to a restaurant. I probably have some DJ gigs that are coming up at some point over the next 6 to 12 months there. And I don't know what the deal is, you know. I mean, some spots may require it. Some spots may be ball busters about it. Some may not. But I got it, you know, and I agree with you with Rogan. I think that, you know, if you're rooting for somebody to get COVID to prove a point or not get COVID to prove a point, you probably should look in the mirror, man. It's not a good look. It really isn't.
It is. It's a messed up thing going on. All right, let's lighten it up a little. I told you a couple of weeks ago they came out with the new series of the new season of The Movies That Made Us.
Yes, I checked it out finally. You know, I've had a lot of chance. You know, my FIFA 21 season is coming to an end, so they're releasing the new game. So I'm watching a lot more television at night instead of fiending out like an idiot zombie playing FIFA till like 3 or 4 in the morning competitively. So I watched that series and I thought it was great, Mike. I saw a couple of them. I watched the Back to the Future one. I watched the Dirty Dancing one. I didn't get around to the Jurassic Park, but I'm going to go ahead and check that out. And then I saw that there was a musical one that talked about kind of the same premise, songs that made us, which, maybe we'll get into if once you see it.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the Back to the Future one. I thought the Back to the Future one was fantastic. And I had no idea that Eric Stoltz was originally cast as Marty McFly.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, you can go on YouTube, and if you type in like Eric Stoltz Back to the Future, they have like 3 or 4 of the scenes he did on YouTube, and you can watch. Like, remember the one big one? Remember the one scene where like Marty's head like pulls back when they're at the soda shop thing, where he sees his father for the first time? They have that scene with Eric Stoltz, and it's pretty cool.
I saw it, like when he's walking through the pavilion in California for the first time, like he's walking around. And you know what? They showed the uncut clips, and it was such a good choice, man. I can't picture, and maybe it's because, Michael J. Fox is so ingrained in pop culture at this point as Marty McFly. I just can't. I don't think it would have worked. Then the other thing, I think we spoke about this too, was they started going to Crispin Glover, and they were like, okay, Crispin, here's your scene. You've got to walk through the store. And he's like, no, Crispin, that's not what George McFly would do.
Yeah, he seemed like he was very much a pain in the ass method actor.
Right. They're like, listen, just do the scene. Or I think at one point, like they made a box around
him. Yeah, they told him, you can't
leave. Wandering out of the scene.
Yeah. One of the things I liked about that, have you ever been to California and taken the Universal tour?
I've been to California. I've been to Universal, but I haven't taken the tour.
I took that tour, and you actually drive through that little town, and it's awesome. You can't believe it. You're like, holy shit! And then they rattle off how many shows have been shot there. I think the first Twilight Zone episode was shot there. Episode number 1 is in that. That's how old it is. That set. And then they just rattle off a whole bunch of TV shows. And it's like, and all the Back to the Futures and the clock. There was no, if I remember correctly, where the clock tower is, there was no clock there. They put the clock
They had to make it. They had to make it.
But what I also liked about it, too, was when they showed some of the people that auditioned for the roles, like Ben Stiller as Marty McFly. Nah.
No,
I couldn't see that.
I like the screenwriters and the thought process between, again, writing a screenplay about Strummer and the Clash. It really jarred some things, and I may go back and tweak the thing that I wrote. But, I liked about the premise that kind of really developed the movie was, what if you could go back in time and meet your father in high school? Think about that for a second. Meeting my dad, Bob, or your father, Mike, back when they were 17, 18 years old in high school, or 16, 17 years old, would you be friends with him?
Yeah.
Would you think he was cool, right? Would you hang out with him, right? I mean, just wild stuff. Or would you do something that would kind of mess up your future?
It's definitely like a wild question. Like, would you hang would you hang out with your parents?
Right.
Or like, think about like the way the mother was in the movie. Like, I was a good girl.
You did everything that you complained about.
That dude almost banged his mother in the movie. Like, that was the creepiest part of the, like, you don't realize it when you were watching it at like 13. You're kind of like, that's just gross. Now, as you're in your 40s, you're like, that's one of the most disturbing, like, did
the guy out there, right?
Did the guy that wrote that movie, did he have some issues? Because they never talk about it in the documentary, but maybe he had some issues that maybe he had to work out. But it's definitely a great movie, a great series that they put on. I think did they do Ghostbusters? I think Ghostbusters is out too on it.
They did Ghostbusters, which I want to check out. I gotta be honest with you.
Ghostbusters
and I'm sure
was great.
Ghostbusters is good.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, Mike. I'm sure going closer to Halloween, Halloween's got to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite holiday. Now I'm not big into the paranormal. I'm not big into that kind of stuff. But my buddy Tony calls me Sixth Sense for good reason. As we get closer to Halloween, we'll bring up the Ghostbusters one. We'll go into Halloween stuff, some paranormal stuff that I want to bring up, and we'll have a good time with that. But I definitely want to check out the Ghostbusters one. The Jurassic Park one I want to check out.
Yeah, I
didn't
watched
get a
part of
chance
Jurassic
to.
Park. It wasn't
Oh, you
bad.
did? Okay.
I will tell you one thing about the Ghostbusters one. I won't ruin it.
Okay.
But there's one little story in it that I think is great where, like, Dan Aykroyd writes the script and they go into, like, who was originally. That original movie was supposed to be Belushi, Aykroyd, and Eddie Murphy.
Ah, that would have been fantastic, man. How
And
crazy would have that been?
yeah, and Eddie Murphy didn't want anything really to do with it, and Belushi died. So it kind of like it just sat around. They get Bill Murray on, like, it's just like a verbal agreement. He's like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. And they're like, well, where are you right? Like, we start shooting tomorrow. Where are you right now? Listen, this is the crazy part. He goes, I'm in France right now. So, like, we start shooting tomorrow at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon is when we're going to start shooting.
Right.
And so, like, they said the producers hung up the phone. Like, Ivan Reitman was like, I don't know if he's showing up or not tomorrow. And
that is a fact check.
And the next day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he came strolling in. He's like, where's the script? Like, just out of nowhere.
I know you're a big Bill Murray fan. I like Bill Murray too. Cool guy.
He's very, you hear like these older stories about him, like always, there actually is a documentary on Netflix about Murray. I think it's called like Bill Murray being Bill Murray or something, where he would just crash parties. That's like his new thing now. He shows up like you're having a backyard barbecue, and if he's in the area doing something, he'll just walk in.
Oh, it's fantastic.
He crashes weddings and
By the way, one of these episodes, maybe when Macho comes on again, we'll do an episode on the wedding crashes because I know Macho loves the wedding crashes, and I do.
It's a great movie. Yeah, he's got like this whole documentary was just how he just shows up to stuff.
That's fantastic.
And we were actually going to go one night. One night I was working, and me and another guy, we were going to leave. And this guy, Brian, that I worked with, he got on Twitter, and he goes, Bill Murray is bartending. His son owns a bar in Williamsburg.
Okay.
And he goes, Bill Murray's bartending in Williamsburg right now. I go, let's go. It was like, we were going to leave work. I looked 5 minutes later, there was a line around the block to get in. I was like, I'm not going now. I said, I'm not standing on line for 3 hours. And they said, he's one of these guys, when he bartends, what he does is, you could go up and say, give me a whiskey sour. He just cracks a beer and gives it to you. That's all he does is serve beers. And then if you ask for like something else, he'll just give you like a shot of whiskey.
Mike, have you ever been to McSorley's?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like McSorley's. So the only time I've gone to McSorley's, I've gone maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. They've both been on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, it's a tourist trap now. I mean, like you could go there, but it's very tourist trappy.
And I remember there probably in the early 90s, I went there and it's the same deal. It's like they served like these big draft beers. And I always remember this little Irish dude. He's walking around. I guess he's cleaning the tables in the back. And I guess if you don't drink quick enough in that place, they throw you out. He's like, you're not drinking? Get the F out. Like in his little Irish brogue. And like they serve, back in the day, they were serving like these crummy cheese sandwiches. Like,
that's that place. The people that don't know about McSorley's is considered one of the oldest bars.
I think it is the oldest in New York City.
It used to go by the oldest, but then I think people have actually dug in and like you have what is it, Francis Tavern down by like the Staten Island Ferry. George Washington drank in there. I mean, what makes McSorley's big is I think Lincoln actually drank in there.
Okay,
that's how old it. So you're going back over 150 years at least. I think it's close to like 175 in age. But
yeah.
They only serve 2 beers, a light and a dark. That's it. Comes in these little, like mugs. I mean, you could down them in seconds. It's like 3 sips and you're done. And the only food they have in there is like crackers and mustard and little cheese sandwiches. They haven't changed anything. If you went in there and probably sold everything that was hanging on those walls, you'd probably have about $10 million. Now,
let me ask you this. Kevin and Brian went to Ireland. Did you go to Ireland? I know Pat went to Ireland.
I've never been, no.
Okay. So I'd like to get Pat on, or maybe ask Pat. And he's told me some stories, I guess, through Facebook and stuff, and maybe you too, about I'd be curious to see what the bar scene is like in Ireland. Or like our friend Jerry, from McClancy and stuff. He used to tell me stories like about Belfast and stuff. I got another buddy who lives in Belfast, and he tells me wild stories too. He's like, Chris, you'd love it here. he goes, he's always inviting me, to go over there. Like he moved back like in the 90s and stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, if you come here, I'll put you up in the house. He goes, but one thing, he goes, don't come with your family. I go, what do you mean? He goes, it's messed up over here. He goes, we can go down like one street, it'll be okay, and the next street it won't be, that kind of deal. And I got another buddy who works in the banking. He's always in the UK too, and in Ireland. And he says the same thing. It's like, you go down one street, it's cool, and the next street, it's like, you say the wrong thing, or they figure out you're Catholic or Protestant, and it's a shit show. So I'd be curious to see what the bar scene is over there. Maybe we'll try to ask Pat about that. But
yeah, I've heard some things about, like, I heard it's big. It's just you either have the bar or you go to the club. That's it. I mean,
racetrack. I hear the racetrack over there, right?
Yeah, the track is a big thing over there. So
that's cool. That's cool. One day, my friend. One day. But
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you put me on to that Movies That Made Us. I'm going to check out the other ones. Well, I'd like to bring up the music one if you have a chance. I think it's the music that made us, the songs that made us, and I think it talks about the big pop songs of the last 50 years that I think are ingrained in pop culture. Kind of in the same vein that we talked about, with this series, which is very, very well made. I know you wanted to talk about the Bob Ross documentary, and I guess keep it on the UK for a second. I checked out that entire series, Ted Lasso, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm caught up to speed with that. What a great series, Mike. I mean, I'm a soccer fan, but even if you're not, I think you'd enjoy it. Sudeikis is great. There's this guy, Brett Goldstein, who plays, I guess, a character who's modeled after Jerry from McClancy. You'll know this guy. The guy's name is Roy Keane, and the character's name is Roy Kent in the series. And Roy Keane was he wasn't a dirty player, but he was a hard-nosed Irish player that maybe a little bit bigger than us, maybe your size, Mike. And he was just like the toughest dude out there in the Premier League over the last 30 years. And this guy, Roy Kent, is modeled after him in the series Ted Lasso. So you got him. You got this woman, this blonde lady who kind of looks like somebody out of the Eurythmics. She looks like Annie Lennox. She plays the owner who, I guess, like you said, is modeled after the original Major League series where they try to ruin the team, but it kind of backfires. She's cool. She was actually a singer, I guess, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think her name is Hannah Whittingham or something. There's a lot of cool actors in it. It's a great series. It's well put together, very well written, and I'm glad you put me onto it. I'm completely caught up with it. So if you have a chance, I would definitely check it out for those out there.
Yeah, I know. I think my brothers were the ones that turned me on to it. So.
Well, apparently Sudeikis, I guess, used to go on, I guess, when they were playing like in the mornings, like Saturday mornings of the Premier League on Channel 4. I guess he was coming on and he was doing like in character years ago before the series came to fruition. He was doing like these commercials with him as Ted Lasso, like as this American soccer coach. And I guess he was doing commercials during these soccer games early Saturday morning. I guess that's how it developed into the series. But it's phenomenal, man. And it's up for a lot of awards and very well written, very well written. Whether you're a soccer fan or not, I think everybody, can get a kick out of it. And Sudeikis is great. I'm a big fan of him, especially after Hall Pass.
Very, Jason Sudeikis is like, do you know who his uncle is? Little trivia. His uncle is Norm from Cheers, George Wendt.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Norm, what's his last name? Wentner?
George Wendt was Norm.
George Wendt, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Wow, that's weird.
That is his uncle.
I guess it sounds like somebody from our neck of the woods, right? Astoria, right? Greek.
Yeah, that sounds like a Greek. I don't know if he's Greek though. If that's like some type of Slav. Let me look him up. Let's see what it says. Jason Sudeikis. Yeah, like I said, I think my brothers turned me on to it. One of them was like, "Hey, you should check this show out." And you got
a St. John's hat on or what?
Yeah, I bought a St. John's hat. I had nothing to do one day, so I went out and bought a St. John's hat. Just, I think he grew up in like Minneapolis. Yeah, his mother is George Wendt's sister.
Interesting. He's got to be Greek. I mean, you don't get a
Mom,
last name like that.
all right, here it is. His father is of Irish and Lithuanian. Sudeikis is Lithuanian.
Okay, I stand corrected. Okay,
and his mother has German
makes
and
sense.
Irish ancestry. His maternal uncle is actor George Wendt, known for his role as Norm.
Where was Latka from? Andy Kaufman's character. Was he from Lithuania, or was he from somewhere else?
No, didn't they make it up? I thought,
Dude, that guy was great.
That's one of the best. That's a real great like bio movie. That Man on the Moon.
Oh, fantastic, Mike.
But now let me ask you
this:
did you watch that documentary?
You got it.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Phenomenal.
What
Phenomenal.
a dick! Jim Carrey's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Absolutely. Carrey's messed up. He's messed up. You know, going back, I'm not a big fan of him. I think his politics suck. I think he's an arrogant, you know what? And I've seen enough stuff of him that have formulated an opinion that he's not a cool guy by any means. You know, he's just a very arrogant guy, and I don't particularly care for him. That said, he's made some funny things, and that movie was phenomenal. I'm a fan of Andy Kaufman. Let me ask you this, Mike. I know you are too. Do you think Andy's alive?
No.
Talking about the lounge singer, you know, thing.
No, he's dead. He would have came back already.
Yeah.
It's been, 30 years probably since he died. He would have came back. Do
you think there's any credence to any of those people that have died that lived after the fact? Whether it's Billy the Kid, Jim Morrison, Elvis, any of those people. Do you think there's any credence whatsoever to people living?
I could go with the Hitler one.
Hitler one's pretty interesting, man.
The Hitler one gets real interesting where it's no one had the body and it got cremated.
Dude, I saw that series. I saw that series and I brought it to my uncle who flipped out when I told it to him. You know, he's like, my uncle was born in Malta. You know, he got bombed by the Germans. When I said it to him and when I gave him the evidence, he looked at me like I had 4 heads on my head. But I tell you what, watching that, there's documentation from the government. They never had the body. I think when they did an autopsy or DNA sample from the girlfriend, Eva Braun, they couldn't match that up. The Russians basically I read a book by Bill O'Reilly too. He said the same thing. I guess they wrapped up the bodies in carpets and they gave them to the Russians. And nobody actually saw the bodies. And I guess the U.S. State Department had evidence that the guy lived, that they kind of got him out of there.
They would, like, you watch that old school like History Channel shows, and we remember it more in the 90s. Like the way the History Channel was in the 90s, it was just all Nazis all the time. It was all Hitler. And there was a few of them where they said, they had that transport back and forth where it would either leave like from Spain or Africa, German submarines going over to South America.
Right.
So, so many fake passports, so many of these Nazis got away that way.
Right.
Some were caught. The Mossad, went out after these guys. They were caught. Some of them were brought to trial at Nuremberg, but there was so much chaos going on in Europe at the time. How easy could it be for him to just slip out?
Especially back then, like in the 40s, right?
And where all these guys went, it seemed like they all went into like these mountain ranges in South America.
I watched the whole series. It's crazy.
It was just towns of Nazis. It was just towns of Nazis.
By the way, don't take Mike's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Watch the damn thing and Google search it. Just it's out there, man. There's documentation from the United States intelligence agencies suggesting that he got away in months after the fact. And you brought up a lot of the points that they bring up in the series, and I won't give it away, but it's really, really phenomenal. Like the History Channel does a lot of good things, like on a lot of different things, but I think that's one of them. I'll tell you what, the Billy the Kid one, I'm a big Old West fan. I think there's some credence to that. They've tried to exhume that body for years, and they don't want to do it because it's not too far from where our friend Rob lives in Arizona. But make a long story short, I guess the mayor doesn't want to exhume the body because it's a tourist attraction, and he feels that, I guess if it was proven that it wasn't Billy the Kid, all that tourist money will go up in smoke. And I think the family's got something to do with it too, as far as they don't want to exhume it as well. But, I've read enough stuff, and, that old Young Guns series, you know, I guess with Christian Slater and Emilio Estevez. It kind of goes into that in the second one.
Yeah.
I don't really buy Elvis. I think Elvis bit it.
Yeah,
I took,
Elvis was a junkie. You know,
yeah,
if when
I don't buy Elvis making it. But I tell you what, Jim Morrison's another interesting character. You know, he talked about going to Africa. He sang about it. I could see him potentially living, but like you said, I mean, 30, 40 years after the fact, I mean,
that's my whole like the
yeah,
same thing like when you say with like Kaufman. I think the joke only goes so far.
right.
You know, and then it's like, okay, you've been gone for who gives a shit now at this point? I think too, like we're talking like the 40s, the 50s, even up to like the 90s. No one was GPS and phones and everything was encrypted. Now, for you to like,
I think it would be very difficult now. Yeah. I think it'd be very difficult now. But I think of all those guys, I think Billy the Kid. I think Hitler is sad to say it could have happened. I mean, I'm not saying it did. You know, I'm not any the case, but I think it would probably be more likely with those two guys. Morrison to an extent because you're talking about the early 70s. Elvis, I guess too, because it still falls in that time period. But of all the guys, I think Elvis would have been a lot more difficult to conceal than, like for example, Morrison. And I think, well, you could probably make an argument Hitler is a tough guy to conceal, but you know, you go down to South American country, no social media back in the 40s and the 50s. I guess it's plausible, right?
Yeah. You don't leave the house. You don't, you know, you just stay in that little community. I mean, because that's a, you know, like we said, we both watch it. It was like these little communities of Nazis that were living in South America. No one's ratting you out.
That's right. That's right. And I guess the series goes into, I mean, it's a fascinating series. Like I said, my Uncle George, when I told him that, and I said to check it out, he looked at me like I was like the devil, bro. I mean, it was really messed up. He was just like, he's a history buff. But I told him everything that they said. I mean, look, don't take my word for it. I'm just watching it. And he kind of dismissed me. But the reality of it is, like, there's whole, I guess, towns down in South America that are completely Nazi stuff. You know, a lot of German people down there. I guess one thing I saw was like they had like this whole fortress city, like in this one part of South America. I think it was like in Argentina somewhere. And it was like in the forest and stuff. And it was just like literally like a compound.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where that's where allegedly Hitler, I guess, you know, disappeared to. But apparently, according to this documentary, you know, it insinuated that he passed away in the 70s, you know, about 30 or 40 years after he was supposed to have bit the bullet in 45.
Oh, in one of those little towns.
Yeah. They said he passed away from natural causes in the early 70s. That's what it insinuated. And the story goes that when the Russians wrapped him in the body, they had, I guess, his doppelganger in there. They couldn't match up Eva Braun's DNA. There was no sightings of the bodies. Apparently, he got filtered away through those, I guess, subterranean tunnels that go through from Germany through Spain and England. And then he got whisked away down to South America. There was intelligence reports from the CIA and I guess the intelligence agencies at the time. And like you said, there was a whole bunch of like German, I guess, enclaves in South America that, you know, I mean, we're a little bit mysterious to say the least, a little suspicious to say the least, with the amount of money that was there, the amount of, I guess, weaponry. I mean, these were like complete compounds and stuff, but whatever, man. I thought it was, I mean, going back to your history channel comment, I think you're absolutely hit it on the head, Mike. If you have a chance to check some of the stuff out, they do phenomenal stuff. There's another show that I used to watch. Maybe you saw it. You ever see Vikings?
Nah, I never got into that show.
Dude, that's a phenomenal show too. It talks about like the beginning of the Viking excursions into England, and you know, it talks about Ragnar, you know, and you know, one of the big Vikings at the time. It kind of reminds me of Sons of Anarchy, which we never went into either, you know, as far as like not so much the theme and stuff, but like the actors and the type of actors that they have included. Maybe sometime we'll go into a little bit more depth about that. And if you have a chance, I would definitely check it out. If you're into history and that sort of stuff, you know, go back and watch that series. It's a fantastic, fantastic series.
All right. Well, looks like we're hitting that time, so.
It is that time, guys. Listen, I hope everybody has a good weekend this weekend, you know, for Labor Day and stuff. Whether you work, whether you don't work, it's a great holiday. hopefully things get back to normal. I got vaccinated. We're probably having a little bit of a small shindig at my house. A couple of small friends and stuff from the neighborhood. Not doing anything too crazy. Enjoy people, be safe, don't act crazy, hopefully we don't get another hurricane. Apparently there's another one in the Atlantic now barreling up the Atlantic Ocean. Hopefully that misses us. But we'll keep our eyes peeled about that. Some stuff we didn't get to, Mike. I think the Bob Ross documentary that you want to talk about, the Anthony Bourdain series that I want to talk about. We'll get to that hopefully next week. The Aretha Franklin episode, the movie Respect, which is phenomenal. I caught a little bit of that the other day, and this poor woman who passed away from the WWE, this wrestler, which is another shit show, and I guess in wrestling, all these people dropping dead. 46 years old. I think she was making comments about offering herself on Twitter, I guess Friday or Saturday night, or Thursday or Friday night. They found her dead. God bless her. I think one of our mutual friends is friends with her. I'd made a comment on Twitter just talking about how, a lot of these people, not her in particular, but I guess her handlers want to keep things very private, respect the family's wishes, yet they're posting stuff on family media. And I know originally, I guess she posted stuff, that I guess people like Mick Foley were reaching out to try to help her. So I kind of get that. I just find it kind of weird. Some of these people pass away and they ask to keep it private, but they plaster it all over social media. It's like, one of us passing away or a family member and plastering it all over Facebook or Twitter. And then when someone like you, hey man, what happened? Oh, respect the family's wishes. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah, but that's different too, because if you look at that, that was what she was doing. She obviously she had the issue, and then if the family just pipes in and goes,
fact, right?
Yeah, when the family comes in after the fact and be like, listen, respect our wishes. We didn't put her life on social media; she did. So we just respect our wishes and let us grieve.
I guess my opinion of it, again, I'm not looking to shit on anybody or the deceased or anything, and I'm not looking to offend anybody who's friends with the person. Obviously, that's not my intention. I'm just saying, look, if it's a public figure and you're posting it on social media, you got to expect people that they're going to ask questions. And I think it's kind of hypocritical at that point, to tell people not to ask questions when you're plastering it all over there. I know the original thing wasn't by them, but obviously it was posted. It's posted on social media. You're a public figure. Look, I get it. You don't have to go into the details, but, don't act offended. And, if you don't want it, don't post it. I don't know. But anyways, I'm not looking to offend anybody or get into it, with anybody. I thought that was a little weird, but either ways, I know she was friendly with a mutual friend of ours. I'm sorry. It sucks. 46 years old and another wrestler, all these people, Mike, in the WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it. There was another guy, I think, well, it wasn't CTE, but we've hit this on the head. It really sucks that these people are in this violent sport, whether it's football or the WWE, and it just seems like an abnormal amount of these people end up dropping dead for unnatural causes before their time.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they live some life. I watched a thing with Roddy Piper years ago doing an interview, and he basically said for 20 years, all he did was coke, pills, and booze every night.
Yeah.
Like 20 years on the road and the shows you're on, you're traveling, I think like 280 days out of the year. You get 80 days home throughout the year, and that's it. He goes, there are times, you might come home for Christmas Day, and by Christmas night, you're on a plane going halfway across the country because you got a show the next night.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah, it beats you up. I'm sure mentally too. You probably get to an age too in that business where it's over. You might not have reached the pinnacle you wanted to reach. So that's screwing with your head. And then on top of it, if you have all these like nagging injuries, it leads to the opioid addiction and, the CTE and everything else. And it's just like a perfect storm.
Yeah, I agree.
Real sad.
Very sad, very sad. My condolences out. I didn't mean to offend anybody if you follow my Twitter account, but I just, again, stuff like that, not the woman, not her reaching out for help, not the people that were trying to help her. I just, like at the end of the day, it's like, if you plaster something on social media, putting aside death, you got to expect people to ask you questions one way or the other, and just whatever, man. Very sad either ways. I guess I'll go into like some of my plugs and you'll go yours and we'll wrap it up. I got my DJ Chris Clash business. Check me out, www.djchrisclash.com. Slowing down a little bit with the weather change and stuff, but I am vaccinated, folks. So if you have a place that requires me, I'm good to go. Hit me up, mention the show. I'll give you a discount. I'll work with you the best I can. Check out Jay Cristiano at Cardinal Financial. His access code is 4215. Mention me and Mike in the podcast. If you're in the business of refis or purchases, Jay works super quick. He's very good. He'll work with you in terms of fees. He's a great guy. Lastly, you can give him a call at 844-442-7334. And lastly, Tommy D's place, Mad Donkey, 3207 36th Avenue, Astoria, New York. Tommy's a fraternity brother of mine. Great spot. He's had multiple businesses in Astoria. Check his place out. And I'm good, Mike. Everybody else have a good weekend. Mike will hit you up with his plugs, and we'll wrap this baby up.
All right. As always, you can check out Jack and I Can Paint on Instagram. Great stuff as always. Pat Dixon, New York City Crime Report, and on Compound Media. Christine Meehan-Berg every week, every Wednesday, show at Dylan's over on Metropolitan Avenue in Forest Hills, Queens. She puts on a live comedy show, usually as headliner comedians for free. Go in, sit down, eat, drink, whatever, and you get a free comedy show. And check out my buddy Provmatic on Twitch. That's it. We'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And for all those that labor, this day is for you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.